Okay, so before this video starts, I want you to know that I did just wake up and I am in the middle of moving right now. So like my hair is a little bit messy and the background's a little bit messy, but I did want to just get this video out before I start like procrastinating more. But yeah, let's get back to the video. Good morning. It is currently 8:58 a.m. So my name is Jeffrey Wu. I am a photographer and student currently studying at ASU. I wanted to upload this video today because I've been wanting to upload something similar for the past couple of years now, but I haven't been able to kind of think about how I wanted to edit or just like make this video come up like into like a real thing. In this video, I kind of just talk about how I would edit a picture and the kind of like the motivations and mindset when it comes to editing, but I don't tell you specifically how to edit a picture. I kind of want you to use this video as a building block of some sorts to kind of think about how you want to edit your pictures, because I don't want you to kind of just copy how I edit and then think that's how you edit forever. I want you to be able to kind of just look at how I'm thinking about it and then do the same in your own context. I'm also editing in Lightroom, but that does not mean you cannot edit in other platforms. I was editing on the free version of Lightroom on my iPad for years before I was really editing on Lightroom on my desktop. But yeah, this video isn't supposed to be a very like instructing like how to do something, but it's very much just going through the flow of editing and how I think about it when it comes to editing. And hopefully you can take something away from it. If not, you can always check out other like photographers that edit in a different way, but that's just how I edit. All right, to the editing. Okay, so before we start editing, I want you to kind of like look at your subject in your picture. So I know that seems a little weird or just like duh, right? When you're editing your picture, you're kind of just like, oh duh, you're gonna like look at the subject. But I want you to kind of look at it and make sure you know what you kind of want before you start editing, because it'll make the flow of editing a little bit faster and, you know, figuring out what you really want out of the picture. So in this picture, of course, the car is the subject, but how are you going to start framing it is the real question when you start editing. So in my like mind, before I started editing this, I was like, okay, I want to make sure like the exposure is a little bit higher on the car and like the trees are like darker, so it's like kind of framing it like kind of like a vignette. But like, you know, on the car specifically. So before you start editing, I want you to just like sit there for a second and kind of just look at what your subject is and kind of figure out how you want to frame it in the picture. So after sitting there and kind of like figuring out what I want out of the picture, I start just making sure that the exposure is correct in the picture. So I just go into the photo and make sure the lighting is properly exposed for the blacks and also for the highlights, so I'm not losing too many details. And then after that, I just start going into figuring out what type of like look in it is in it. So like some people go, oh, they want to do black and white, so they just make it black and white. Or if you want to do vintage, they start adding like greens in there. If you want like Kodak, I don't know what the exact film is, I shoot digital, but you know, figuring out what type of feel you want. So as you see in the video, I'll start making it a little bit more green and like orangey because I want that like vintage film look, but you know, making it like my own flavor. But that aspect of editing really is just sitting there and playing with the settings, because you know, I've been editing for a couple of years, but it just is literally you sitting there and figuring out how the lighting works, or how you want to make the colors bounce off of this, or how the shadows want to look like this. So really sit there in Lightroom or whatever editing software you choose and just play with the settings until you find something good. Like in this video, you can probably see me just like playing around with the settings, going like sliding it back and forth and all that stuff. It's literally me continuously trying to figure out what I like and what I'm trying to get out of the picture. So with the little graph on the bottom right is basically just messing around on how much like the midtones want to peak or how much the highlights want to peak. And you know, playing around with all the settings is one of the best advice I could give you as like just editing as a beginner photographer or just a photographer in general, because you are just trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like. So after figuring out how you want the picture to be exposed, I kind of run over to the color section and figure out the color grade. So with the color grade, I think it's the most fun of just like the editing process, because you kind of put your style into the picture. So in this part of the video, I start adding like greens to the shadows, and then I start adding oranges to the midtones, because I'm trying to get that vintage look for this picture. But I highly encourage you just to go into this section very slow. It doesn't mean you have to, edit a certain way. You don't have to copy how I'm editing this picture, but figure out what you like and don't like. I'm gonna sound crazy, and because I keep saying that so many times, but really part of editing like pictures and becoming a photographer is just figuring out your style. So don't rush this part. This is probably the most fun part of learning on and like figuring out what you like. So take it slow. Generally, after doing the color grade, I usually touch upon the texture and also the clarity. So with this, I don't go too much, just because if you add a lot of clarity and just a lot of texture, it kind of adds a little bit of a noise to your picture, and it makes it a little bit just like hard on the eyes. So I try not to do it too much, but I do use texture and the clarity mostly just to like highlight details, and you'll see that when I start doing the masks. So when it comes to working in the mask section of the editing software, if you do have it, use it, but it is very tedious. I would say working in the mask section, you're kind of just like making sure certain parts of the picture look how you want it. So when you start editing in this section, you might want let's say for the example of this picture, you want the car a little bit brighter. You want the rear bumper of the car to shine a little bit more, or you want the wheels to shine a little bit more. So really going in there, using that brush tool, or just using the object aware like tool in Lightroom or whatever software you might be using to just like highlight certain spots. So in this example, I'm highlighting the trees to make it a little bit darker because the sun was just very, very bright. So I wanted to like cut down some of the highlights coming from through the trees and just like on the trees. And you'd also see like in some of the parts of the video, I might be making the road a little bit darker just to add a little bit more contrast to the picture, and put somewhat of like a half vignette on the bottom of the road to make sure your eyes are like looking at the car. But really take it slow in this part and have fun, because that's all what photography really is just having fun and making sure you like what the picture looks like. So yeah, that's basically like how I think, or just like my mindset when it comes to editing. I know that in this video it's not very like in depth, and I'm not telling you exactly how to edit. So I'm not telling you like how to properly expose it or telling you how to color grade it correctly, but that's kind of the point. I wanted you to kind of just view this video and understand the mindset of editing before really just like copying down how I edit and just like think that's how photography is. I want you to be able to go into your editing software and just roam and find your voice when it comes to editing pictures. Because growing up, when I was watching YouTube videos on how to edit, a lot of photographers on YouTube when I was a little bit younger were just kind of like telling me how to color grade, and I think it slowed me down as a photographer because I was trying to edit exactly like this person. I would say take this video as inspiration on how to edit, and also other photographers on how to edit like Peter McKinnon or other YouTubers around, but don't make your art exactly the same as theirs. I would definitely edit like them just to get the experience, but definitely try to put your own input in as well. So thank you guys for watching the video. It was just a little fun thing I wanted to make for a couple years now. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of insight into how I edit my pictures. Of course, it wasn't in depth. I've said it multiple times in the video. I could go more in depth into how I edit, but a lot of the things that I play with in Lightroom is very much just me playing around with the settings. So that's why in the video, I stress so much to just be like, hey, play with all the settings. If you guys do want to have a proper video of me going through a very long editing, like, just session of one of my pictures, I could, but I don't think you would learn that much from it just because it's very much just like how this video is. I don't know when I'm going to be uploading again, hopefully soon, because I do want to start making videos again. I hope you guys learned something from just like this small editing session. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.